Hi, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Stock Market with my first FTSE analysis for you, done after London has closed for its session dated Thursday 15th of August. I'm recording this video Friday the 16th London time, 8:30am in the morning. I had a poll on my website last week asking members and readers what other market you'd like me to analyse, and the overwhelming response was you want me to give you analysis of the FTSE once a week, so that's what I'm going to do for you. At the monthly chart level, I have just two wave counts for you, and I've spent quite some time over the last week looking at the subdivisions of this piece of movement and this piece of movement particularly on the daily chart. From the start of the FTSE data in 1984, from the low to this high here, it looks like a really clear five-wave impulse. And from this point onwards, this looks really corrective. So I expect this is probably the end of a supercycle first wave, and this is where a big second wave correction's probably begun. From this high to this low, it subdivides perfectly as a nice five-wave impulse, and I would not want to see this any other way. From this low to this high here with a slightly truncated fifth wave, because this final piece of upwards movement on the daily chart subdivides very nicely as a 5 and not a 3, I expect this is where we have a zigzag complete. From this point here to the low down here, it does subdivide best as a 5-wave impulse, and I've checked this one most carefully on the daily chart. I've looked at the possibility that it could be a single zigzag. I've looked at the possibility that it could be a double zigzag. It does subdivide quite nicely on the daily chart as a 5-wave impulse. We have a couple of fourth and fifth waves down in here at the end of intermediate wave 3. So I expect we have a 5-3-5 zigzag structure complete down here. Now this may be the end of a correction, and we may be seeing the start of a new bull market to last decades, but what's most likely, considering how long the upwards trend lasted, is that the correction is not likely to be over here. So I'm labelling this supercycle wave 1, and supercycle wave 2 is incomplete because I'm considering duration. So what's most likely is we have a 5-3-5 zigzag for an A wave, and a 3-wave zigzag up for a B wave. And when we look at this piece of movement so far, it looks really clearly like a 3-wave structure. The only thing that would make me reconsider this wave count and consider a more bullish alternate, which is possible, would be a really strong upwards increase in momentum from this point on. And at this point, from this high to this high, we see a continuing divergence with MACD trending lower and price trending higher. So at this stage, it doesn't look like we're heading into a third wave, only a strong increase in momentum when I expect the next little piece of upwards movement. If that increases in momentum, it's not a fifth wave. We could be seeing the middle of a third wave unfold, but I do think that's unlikely. So at this stage, I think that we're going to see more upwards movement for the FTSE as a 3-wave zigzag for a cycle wave B unfolds. Because cycle wave A is a 3 and cycle wave B is a 3, we're probably looking at a flat correction, and the most common type of flat is an expanded flat, where B reaches 105% the length of A, and that's achieved at 7103.67 for the FTSE. When that's done, I'll be looking out for a really strong trend change and the start of a cycle degree wave C to the downside. If cycle wave B fails to reach up to 7103.67 and is less than 105% the length of cycle wave A, then the flat would be correctly termed a regular flat, and that would expect cycle wave C to end around about the same level as cycle wave A, probably just a little bit below that, to avoid a truncation and a rear running flat. So the height of the next, or the length of the next piece of upwards movement I am expecting, will give us a strong indication as what to expect and what target we should calculate for the next downwards wave, which should last 1 to several years, but we're not there yet. Let's have a look at the daily chart for where the end of intermediate wave 3 within primary C is this point here. At this stage, I don't think that intermediate wave 4 within primary wave C is complete, because from this high to this low, I've tried to see if this movement, and initially I thought it was ABC, because that's kind of what it looks like, but that just doesn't fit. From this high to this low, it does not fit as a 5-wave impulse for an A wave. What does fit, and fits very nicely indeed, is a 5-wave impulse down from this high to this low, so this is minor wave A. Within intermediate wave 4 I expect, and the upwards movement so far is probably a complete minor wave B. I would expect minor wave C to probably end at least slightly beyond the end of minor A, just below 6023, but intermediate wave 4 in its entirety unfolding as a zigzag can't move into intermediate wave 1 price territory. Movement below 5989.07 would invalidate this wave counter intermediate degree. Alternatively, on the monthly chart, the subdivisions are all the same. We have a 5-3-5 zigzag. This could be just wave W within a combination for supercycle wave 2. A 3-wave zigzag in the opposite direction, labelled cycle wave X, could be joining the two structures in the double. It still requires the end of intermediate wave 4 and then a final 5th wave up to end primary wave C impulse. And when that's done, instead of a 5-wave impulse probably downwards for a cycle wave C, this alternate would be expecting a second corrective structure, which should be either a flat or possibly a triangle. So looking at those subdivisions carefully on the daily chart for the last few years for the FTSE, I'm expecting that we've still got a bit more upwards movement overall to end maybe into September, October. In the short term, I'm expecting downwards movement to a slight new low before price turns around and resumes the upwards trend. Next week's analysis of the FTSE should drill down to an hourly chart level. That's all for me today with your FTSE analysis, and I hope that everybody had a fabulous week.